G'day, I'm Peter Coleman, and welcome to the National Citizens Coalition newscast. Without a doubt, the most pressing issue facing Canadians today is the level of government spending in this country. Alberta has already released its budget, and the news is not good. Taxpayers were expecting restraint with the appointment of a new Minister of Finance. Yet even though Premier Stelmach was under fire from the Wild Rose Alliance Party for out-of-control spending, his government just announced expectations of a record-setting deficit for 2010, accomplished through spend increases of more than 5%. In fact, Alberta has now become the highest spending government per capita in Canada at over $11,000. Many of our members of the NCC take the time to write in and share their views on these current events. So how do Canadians feel about the situation?
Doug says, I don't think that the Alberta voter will fall for the story that Morton has been telling. We now have an alternative party, and history has shown that the Alberta taxpayer is likely to take advantage of that option. John says, the problem that the Alberta government has, and so many other governments have, is that they instituted social programs when times are good, and when revenues decline and they can no longer afford them, it is difficult to curtail or cancel the programs. Dave says, I continue to be extremely upset by the government having bought 5 years of peace with the teachers' union. The next time around, this government must demand a rollback of salaries.
It's very important for Canadians to be able to voice their opinions on these important issues. At the National Citizens Coalition, we welcome your comments. Please visit nationalcitizens.ca to be heard. We now turn to reporter in the field, Gloria Fisher, for more on the 501 campaign. Gloria, what are people saying?
Well, Peter, the NCC has launched the 501 campaign at just the right time. All across the country, Canadians are disappointed in their government's management of the economy. And there is a profound disconnection between Canadian taxpayers and their elected representatives.
Why are people feeling disenfranchised by their governments?
That's an interesting question, Peter. Canadians have suffered through a serious recession. Many have lost their jobs. They have had to cut back their spending, tighten their belts. Yet, they're watching as governments continue to tax and spend at record levels. That's why the idea of a 5% pay cut for elected officials is catching on. That's why Canadians want to see zero-based government budgeting, why they want to limit government spending growth to 1% a year and government hiring to 1 new public servant for every 2 public servants that retire.
So we're proposing a 5% pay cut for all MPs, and we're also proposing zero-based budgeting. How do you feel about that?
I feel great about that.
I don't feel the government is accountable enough at all, especially I come from a healthcare background, so we see a lot of waste.
It'd be very nice to know exactly how my extra taxes are going to be spent.
No new taxes. Give me. Do you realize what the HST is going to cost you and me?
And how do you feel about the current scandals that have been going on, e-health, for example?
It's criminal what's going on. If we could have a quarter of the money in healthcare for what they've wasted, we could do a lot of good.
If they're going to increase taxes and increase money coming in, they should definitely, do something about it and put that money to good use.
At what point in our lives do they become accountable for what they say? They have to be accountable, and they are not.
Thank you for that report, Gloria. Canadians certainly deserve more from their elected officials. We'll be doing everything possible to make sure that happens. As part of this effort, the National Citizens Coalition is today announcing the Porky Awards. We'll be nominating the worst of the big-time government spenders throughout the year, and the most wasteful will be named the winners, rather losers, annually. For this edition of National Citizens Coalition newscast, we feel compelled to nominate several MLAs from Nova Scotia, representing all major political parties. They've been caught with their hands in a cookie jar and making unscrupulous expense claims. Please visit nationalcitizens.ca for more on the stories it develops. We will be investigating and reporting which MLAs and MPPs support expense reform across the country. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been another edition of the National Citizens Coalition newscast.